What is up, you guys? We are here for our weekly energy oracle forecast. Hope everybody is doing well. I reprised our Secret Teachings of Jesus episodes last night with our first Saturday night secret sermon I'd done in quite a few weeks because of the holidays and everything. I've just been on hiatus. And there were many nights where I sat down to do it, but then I was just an empty tank. And there was something in me that wanted to push through, but I didn't want to not give my all to the Gospel of Mary. And so I was like, I just feel like I need to be on a full tank when I do this, and not from a perfectionistic point of view. I was also telling myself, timing is always kind of magical with those videos because they always align. Like the Secret Teachings of Jesus episode nearly always aligns perfectly into the upcoming energy of the week that the Torah portions and the Zohar commentary corresponds to. And so the Kabbalah Center will do a weekly video to project the weekly energy on Sunday. Usually they release it, and I'm filming on Saturday night. And so then they'll do an additional podcast on Mondays or Sunday afternoon. And then there's the daily Zohar portion that's on Sunday morning. So on Saturday, they don't do any content. It's part of Shabbat. And it's so interesting because after every episode on Saturday night, I'm like, wow, did I say anything that made sense? I was just so out of body. What happened? And then I'll watch the weekly energy forecast that talks about the Torah portion for the week. And I'm like, oh my God, it perfectly synchronizes almost every week. So I trusted that even though there was a gap in weeks, I was like, it's going to be really funny if it aligns perfectly when I finally do pick back up with this specific segment, if it aligns with the energy of the week. And so last night we were working in the Gospel of Mary, and I remember saying, I wonder what the energy of the week is going to be tomorrow. I bet it's going to align with what we're talking about. And sure enough, I wish I could put a link to this video in the description box, but you probably have to have an account set up with the Kabbalah Center in order to see this video. But it was the daily Zohar portion, and the portion, it was talking all about the stuff that we were talking about in the video last night. And I was like, I wish that I could show everybody this that saw that video last night, because I totally called it. It happened 100% again. And so I thought that was so funny. But yeah, anyway, enough about that. So what is our energy for this week? We need to embrace what we are going through and what we are experiencing and the challenges that we're having right now. Because basically what is happening currently and over the next few weeks, there's about 3 times a year where we have, Kabbalistically speaking, a collective dark night of the soul. And one of those times happens during Capricorn season and into part of Pisces season. And then the other times of year are in Cancer season, and then in Leo season leading into some of the Virgo season. So this kind of several weeks that we are in these challenging times that are putting pressure on us, that's revealing more of the inner light of our soul. And so when the outer pressure starts pushing in, that is the surrounding light of our soul that we haven't integrated into our beingness yet. And so by facing challenges and by transcending our lower nature and by practicing that restriction to self-control, self-master, and use free will, and become more like the Creator, and mirror the virtues of the Creator, then we start ascending, and we start opening ourselves and up to the flow of blessing and protection, and we draw closer to the Creator. So it's when we're in these challenges, if we can take a step back and disconnect from the chaos and the drama and the plot, and disconnect and be like an observer, and look for the light and how you can activate the light through that situation, or in that situation, within that situation, right? Bring the light into a scary situation through prayer, through, into a challenge, through prayer, through connection, and knowing that God is always with us, right? That if we can know that in the moment, it activates such a next level of power and miracles. And it's called being face to face with the Creator. When you can be in the heat of the discomfort and the uncertainty, and still choose to work towards the right consciousness, or the right mindset, or the right heart set, or the right attitude about something, or working in the right direction, instead of slipping into the darkness, continuing to reach for the light and to vote towards actions and choices that bring us closer to the light, to make us more like the light. So when we are in the situation and we're in the darkness, and we fall, into that fear, and we become reactive, and then that kind of unleashes some chaos that we're going to have to work out and correct. Then later in hindsight, we see, oh, okay, I see why I was in that situation. I learned from that situation. I've grown, through that situation in the aftermath. And that is called seeing the Creator's back. When you realize that the Creator was in the house as the Creator is leaving, right? If you're face to face with the Creator, then you get to appreciate the Creator while the Creator is in the house, right? But if you realize after the fact and you look back on hindsight and you get the lesson, then it's like seeing the Creator's back as the Creator's leaving. And then the worst state to be in, though, is when you're in the darkness and you're in the thick of it, and you are so lost in the sorrows and the fears and the negativity that you can't see the Creator at all, and you can't see a way out, and you can't see you can't believe that there's ever going to be a moment where you will eventually find a silver lining, or reveal light through the other side of it. And that is having your back to the Creator and not being able to perceive the Creator at all. And that's the most isolating and woeful place to be in. There is no light in that place. And in order to be able to be in connection with God, with the Holy Spirit, we have to have some remnants of wholeness in our consciousness, because we have to have some vibrational affinity to draw close to that Spirit. So if you reflect back on Bible stories, a lot of the patriarchs, when they were going through challenging times and they were in deep sorrow or mourning, that would usually be the times where they would go through even more challenges, and they wouldn't feel the presence of God in their life. But then it's like when they were able to reconnect with that peace and that joy again and be made whole, then it was like that was when they were mentally they had gotten out of that state, right? And so, when we are in the midst of the challenge, choosing the kind of consciousness we have will determine what trajectory starts unfolding, what kind of story starts unfolding. And remember that we're going into this new timeline, and finally, our story, that new beginning, is starting to take root. It's starting to materialize, and we are co-creating as we go. And this year is going to have a very fast turnaround in the material reality reflecting back our energetic and our conscious reality. So if we take a negative action, we're going to have negative repercussions fairly quickly. And if we reveal light, then we are going to feel the blessings quickly. They're going to be more apparent. But one thing's for sure is to embrace whatever moment you're in. And if you can find gratitude and connect with gratitude within the situation. Gratitude is a very powerful vibration. It's very magnetic, and it can lift you up out of low vibrational state that leaves you vulnerable to negativity. Okay. And it's so funny too, because even today's portion of the Zohar was talking about this very subject. It's talking about how if we can accept the challenge and embrace it, that takes away a lot of the suffering right there. I wish that you guys were had an account with the Kabbalah Center so y'all could watch the Daily Zohar so you'd know what I'm talking about. Okay, our next card is Passion. I love this. I think that this came up in my weekly reading for myself this morning, and I haven't had time to sit down and do a weekly reading for myself in a minute either, because of making the 2026 prediction series for the last 3 months. It's just been a lot to squeeze in, so some of the things had to be on hold for a little bit. And there was this sort of theme unfolding about stoking our passion and the what we're building, this new reality that we're building, that we're writing. It is going to be fueled and manifested through our passion, through our excitement. The more enthusiastic and the more intensity that we can bring to what we're giving to this new chapter, that is going to be the building materials that we're creating with, right? That we're building on. I love that whatever this part of the body is that is corresponding with this heart, it reminds me of a Corinthian column in architecture. And the Corinthian columns, like any of the columns that you see in those ancient temples, they were support beams, right? And so I love that the passion is what's holding our vision up, right? When we get in a low state and we're our tank is low and we are being impatient with ourselves and we're not being compassionate enough with ourselves, and we're feeling tired and we want to quit, it's what keeps us going, what keeps us continuing to hold that vision up when we feel oh my gosh, do I have any more in me? It's the passion. If it's real, if it's true, then you can reconnect with it and keep that kindled. It's better to keep your passion kindled, whether it's in a relationship or for a thing. It's easier to keep that fire at a low roar, at a hot simmer, when the coals and embers get really hot, and it's easier to keep that going and sustain that than let the fire go out and have to start over again. All right, so keep up your passion. And I think too, when we embrace where we find ourselves and we think, okay, this situation on the surface, my ego says this is bad. This is a bad situation and I don't like this. This is not what I wanted. This feels like it's going to be negative or destructive. I'm judging this and I'm labeling it as bad. But what you don't know is that it may be wrapped up in bad, but it might actually be good. For instance, a lot of times the parables that they give at the Kabbalah Center, they talk about people like not judging a situation as good or bad, because something that on the surface is wrapped up in this great good thing, this blessing that it looks good, it feels good, it's bright, shiny object, it can come with chaos and negativity, right? So we can't really judge a book by its cover. So this happened to me several years ago, but I used to have a 4Runner that I really liked, and it was silver, and it just was a nice car, and I loved it. It was sturdy. I believed in the sturdiness of 4Runners. And unfortunately, my catalytic converter went out, and so that's really expensive to replace, and you couldn't get your emissions test approved if your catalytic converter was out. So the car was already putting me into debt, and then the second one was going out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to get the other one fixed or I won't be able to renew my tags. And I was kind of freaking out, and the car started making like a really weird noise. Like it felt like an expensive noise. And I was like, I don't know what is going on with this, but this makes me nervous. And so around that time, I had started driving for Lyft for a minute, briefly, because I was a freelancer in production at the time, and so it was like a slow part of the season. And so while I was out looking for rides or people that needed a ride, I was hit by a car, and it totaled my car. No one was hurt, thank God. But I was so shook and I was so upset, and I don't like being involved in anything legal, like, or any of that. Like, it was really like all of that is very traumatizing. The language and the paperwork they send you is really hard to understand. Like, I'm not like a left brain kind of person. So anything like that is just very heavy, very traumatic, very intimidating. And I ended up having to basically be the manager and the coordinator of the evidence, the witnesses. It was weird. It was like the universe had me put in the exact situation that I find that I'm in over my head. And then I had to manage the whole thing because it was being run incompetently. Long story short, my insurance ended up paying out because my car was totaled, and I ended up having to get a new car out of the situation. And a chunk of it was paid for because of the insurance and whatnot. But I realized in the moment, like, yes, I was shook and scared of the accident, and I knew it was a bad like experience to be in, but I knew that it was a blessing wrapped up in a shitty wrapping paper, because I knew that my car was about to be totaling itself mechanically. I could feel it. I knew something expensive was going on, and I'd already put more money than I should have into it already, and money that I didn't have. So in the end, God helped me get rid of the lemon, and I got a very reliable, reasonably priced car, and that replaced it. And I could see very quickly in that moment that even though it was a scary situation, even though it was jolting, I wasn't ultimately hurt. And it was challenging going through the situation, waiting for everything to be worked out, because it was scary, it was intimidating, I didn't know what was going to happen. But I had a feeling that it would be okay, because God made sure I didn't have to pay the cost of having to, like, fix another car that was gonna just disintegrate and like break down. I probably would have kept putting money in it to try to have it fixed, or I would have been effed and not had like any down payment to put on a new car and would have had to start over. So it was such a blessing in disguise. So this is what I'm talking about, like when things are happening and they seem challenging and unpleasant, sometimes it is a blessing in disguise, and many times it is. And I know that can sound like a bunch of BS, and it's easy to say, but when you're the one suffering in a very scary or painful situation, sometimes it feels like someone is being like, what is the word, calloused when they say something like that. But believe me when I tell you, I come from a family who's been through hardships, tragedy after tragedy, like drama after drama, chaos, like unrest, instability, uncertainty. Like I've lived through so many of the possible buffet of crises and shit in my life, just being in the unit of souls that I was placed in. So I have seen so many miracles come from so many shit situations. So I'm not saying this having never had that happen. I'm saying from experience, even having seen this a million times, it's still hard when you're in the moment. But the faster that you can shift that awareness, knowing, oh, the creator is here, I need to activate the creator in the situation, because there's no coercion in spirituality. We have free will. So you have to invite your angelic help in. You have to invite the creator to help you. And according to the wisdom of Kabbalah, it's better, like you can ask for help from your angels, and you should. But your angels, if you ask for help from the angels are going to look at your rap sheet, and they're going to look to see what kind of person you've been lately. And they're going to hold your shittiness against you. they're going to be like accounting, and they're going to be like, okay, wait, like what does this person merit? What kind of help do they merit? Do they have to pay for the miracle? Like, do they have spiritual credit? Like, we could give them, like, put it on their spiritual credit card. Like, we can get them out of this pinch, but like they have to like go through a little bit of something later to like balance the checkbook, essentially. That's an oversimplification, but it is a nice metaphor to think about the fact that like there isn't a free lunch, like not even in spirituality. Even Jesus was the payment, for us, even if you're looking at it that way. So our next card is awareness. Amazing. So the more that we can step back and remember the self within the self, connect with the observer that is observing you in the situation, right? I don't know if anybody out there has read or ever done A Course in Miracles, but the way I would describe it is it's like a spiritual embodiment. It sort of separates the part of your consciousness, the part of your mind from your consciousness that makes you suffer, by awakening you to yourself, and by awakening you to the self that is separate from the multiple other selves, right? The egoic self that is always trying to like preserve the self-preservation. You've got shadow self. You've got all these different parts of the self that are competing for control at any given time, right? So when you're in the midst of it, the thick of it, the faster that you can step out of the scene where you're in the drama, like pretend you're in the soap opera, right? And you're like, you're a character in the soap opera when you're in it, when you're like emotionally like caught up in the situation itself. But if you can remember, oh, I'm an actor in a soap opera. Hold on, I'm taking myself out of the scene. I'm jumping out of character. And then even from there, you can be like, okay, now I'm observing the scene, even though everyone else is still so in it. But now I'm the actor. I'm not the character anymore. I'm the actor. Okay. Can you even take a step even back further and say, now I'm an audience member and I'm watching this play out on the set, and I see that they've got the applause light and the laugh track going, but I'm the observer and I'm watching this play out. And so when you can get more distance from the situation, then you're not in an emotionally reactive state. And then you're taking yourself out of effect consciousness, right? And you're being more in a state of cause consciousness. When we like look at when we study the creator is like so beyond our ability to like, we shouldn't put an image or grave an image or limits on the creator, but we can explore and like delve into the aspects of the creator. So the creator is so abstract because the creator is everything, right? So we can start to like categorize the creator's consciousness. Right? And so there is like creator consciousness versus destroyer consciousness. There is giver consciousness versus taker consciousness. There is cause consciousness versus effect consciousness. And so when we're caught up in the story and we're being affected and our reflexes are happening and we're triggered and we're just like acting upon our emotions, like, I'm getting pissy, I'm getting short, I'm getting scared, I'm getting desperate, I'm getting, or I'm tempted, I'm getting excited, I'm jumping on a bandwagon, right? When we're reactive and affected, that puts us in effect consciousness. And that we do not have affinity with the creator when we're in effect consciousness. The creator is the cause, an eternal emanation of unchanging, unfluctuating beingness and sharing and creation and love and goodness and light. It doesn't change. It's not conditional. So when we are not affected, when we don't let our energy and our being and our consciousness be completely thrown and affected by a situation, even though it might be initially we can get our bearings, right? Get our bearings, get our feet planted back solidly on the ground. That it's like when we practice more self-awareness, it's like our consciousness begins to expand and elevate, and then we have greater self-awareness, and we're more aware of ourselves, and then our consciousness starts to expand even more. It's funny, me and my friend tonight were both on this private party, and we were taking care of a group of like about 30 people. And they had a lot of kids, and there's a lot of couples, and it was a surprise party, and they all got there like before the restaurant even opened, and they're all crowding this room, and me and the girl are trying to like set up their party, and they're like all over the place. We can't get our stuff into the room. We can't get to the table. They're decorating. The kids are like moving all the stuff that we're setting on the table, and it was like finally we had to ask them like, hey, can you like make all the people that don't have to be in here decorating, can you have like go out of the room for a minute so we can get set up, or else we won't be ready to start your party. Like we won't be able to take care of you. And like finally they like got people out of the way, but like they were like that throughout the whole night. They were so unaware. They were just so, it was like we were like flabbergasted at how like unaware of these people of themselves they were. It was like we were like, have they ever, like, just the way that they were acting and the way that they were letting the kids act, and we were just like, have they ever been to a restaurant? Like some of the things they were asking, some of the things they were asking for, it was just like they just weren't self-aware. And then because of that, like their behavior was like super unconscious. And it was like, but like, think about it. Like, then obviously, like when you think about the opposite of that, a person who's like aware of the self, maybe not like self-conscious to the point where it's like debilitating, but you're like aware, right? You're spatially aware of yourself, and you try to allow other people to like, here, after you, like when I'm not aware, spatially aware, I get ruder. Like I don't see that there's someone that's also walking towards me, and then I like, you know what I mean? Like we're all capable of it, but the more aware we are, the more conscious we are. And then the higher consciousness we have, it's like the more we start thinking about others, and we start connecting with them, and we start thinking about each other, we start having more understanding or compassion or like self-awareness, like being aware of other people's needs as well. I don't know, it's all interconnected. So I think that when you understand the nature of the level of the game we're playing with, when you understand the rules of the game, the chaos doesn't look like chaos anymore. It doesn't seem chaotic. You're like, oh, I understand the nature of the level we're in, and I understand the rules of the game, so this isn't chaos at all. I actually understand exactly what's happening. And so the more aware you can be as an active player in the game, the more skilled and proactive and effective that you can be as we traverse these days of our lives. Good God. Okay. Let's grab one more card. What do we have here? Oh, the ego. So whatever's happening this week, it's happening to tickle the old ego and show us, okay, what are these weeds that are gathering that we need to clean these up to get our garden boxes up here ready for a new spring, right? We're in a new cycle, we're in a new growth. So we need to cut out these thoughts, these limiting beliefs that are going to suffocate our new seedlings. So the challenges during these few weeks of this dark night of the soul that we're all collectively in, it's to show us, okay, where are the gaps and weaknesses in our ego that allow us to be vulnerable to the influence of our evil inclination, our lesser nature, our more lazy nature, our selfish nature, our destructive nature, our diabolical nature. Whatever that is, we need to see it so that we can get a hold of it. Last night in our portion from the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, we were talking about going down to come back up. And this is a concept that's talked about in Kabbalah a lot, but many times when we fall and we have that, we make a big mistake or we have a huge failure, it's the fact that we had that fall that allowed us to see what needed to change, that galvanized us finally and gave us the desire that we needed to make that change, right? If we never like truly tap into our deepest pain or our deepest fear, we don't know what kind of person we really are when we're put in that kind of a situation, when push comes to shove. And so if you don't see yourself at your most vulnerable, you don't see the evil inclination that's triggered in you and what you're truly capable of, in order to like see, oh, that part of me is there. I need to do something about that. I need to refine that and correct that and repair that and purge that of the darkness and transmute that and transform that. But if we don't see those parts of ourselves, then they're kind of hiding out in the shadows, and they're whispering up through the subconscious, and they're still having their effect. They're still doing their damage. They're still working their darkness through you. You just don't realize it. You don't realize that virus is in your operating system. So in a way, it like when that part of you comes out, it's not that we should go trying to make mistakes because we have to pay for those spiritually. But once the mistake is made, just understand that it's not a wasted moment if you can bring purpose to that afterward and see the mistake and learn from it, and then let that mistake be the thing that gives you an even greater fire and passion to want the transformation, to want the change, to want to be closer to the Creator as a result of having been separated and been taken away from the Creator. You're like, oh, I don't want to go down into that darkness, that slavery to Egypt in my mind and my consciousness again. I don't want that ill will, that negativity, I don't want that weakness in me. I don't want that addiction in me. I don't want that desperation in me. Like, now that I've seen, oh, okay, I don't want that ugliness. I don't want that evil eye. I don't want that evil tongue in me. But we have to be able to see it first, right? Or else it's hiding out. It's all of it. All of it's in all of us, right? So when we can see that, it is an opportunity to change it. And a lot of times we don't see it unless we're put under the pressure, right? I mean, look at people these past, couple of years, as the pressure gets turned up. And I mean, going back even to like, say, the pandemic, it's like you see people, either the best of them comes out in those times or the worst of people comes out in those times. But the pressure, it shows what people are made of, and people can become better through that pressure, but it's up to them to choose that storyline for themselves. It's choose your own adventure. You can choose for this to be your villain origin story, or you can choose for this to be your hero's origin story. Right? I love to think of The Mandalorian. I only ever watched the first season because love that dude, like Pedro Pascal. He's even sexy under a helmet. But I loved that first season. I didn't really watch the show after that. But what I took away from it, there was a few valuable lessons I took away from it. And one was that, here you have this guy who's known all over many galaxies for being a total badass, and he's a total hero, and everybody's like, oh my god, he fucks. But he also has like a beater spaceship. Like, he's broke, he's barely making it, he gets his ass fucking handed to him every episode, but he like somehow gets through it and survives and just keeps going and just continues to fight another day. but that's what gives him his legend. It doesn't mean that he's like beat down like oh, he's just barely making it. Like, he's not like throwing a pity party for himself. He's just got grit, you know, and chutzpah. And so that's because he chooses the way he sees himself. And we have that choice within us. When life, you know, gives us hard knocks, we can either wallow in our despair and bemoan it all. And we get to do that for a minute. We get to throw a quick pity party and cry and punch a pillow and all that. But ultimately you have to get, you know, calm down and, you know, get your wherewithal and then choose what kind of attitude you're going to move forward with. You know, what kind of perspective do you choose to have? Because sometimes it's not something that just happens. You have to cultivate it, and it's a choice, and it's a muscle that you have to build in order to you know, when people are, you need an attitude adjustment. It's like, it's hard to just shift gears like that, isn't it? It takes a muscle that you build where you're like, okay, I might be able to get it in this moment, but that old attitude is going to come back when I'm triggered again, and I'm going to have to choose again, and I'm going to choose again, you know. So it's a lot of times it's practice, but it's almost like when you train yourself, like in a discipline, like a martial arts or yoga or something. So too is our consciousness. And if you don't keep it sharp, then it gets flabby, and it loses its flexibility, and it gets uptight and stiff and rigid. So we have to stay on top of it. We have to keep working it. All right. Well, that is all for tonight, you guys. I am, well, what a week ahead. I just on pins and needles on the edge of my seat. So we're going to be in it together. All right. I'm also, I had so much going on the last 3 days, and I'm in the 2026 prediction series. I'm taking the yearly workshop right now, and I haven't done the journal prompts yet, but already just having listened to the reading, I'm like, holy shit, like the first 2 weeks of January have already delivered so many of the key points that we are going to have to be aware of this year. It is already shaping up to be exactly what that reading was talking about. So super, super interesting stuff. It's an invaluable tool that you can use throughout the year. And you can go back to the journal work and use it as an ongoing tool, as like ritual work for the rest of the year to come. So you have the yearly overview. You have quarterly readings for the seasons, and each one each video has its own journal prompts and like journal work to do the workshopping through. So you have the readings, plus you have all the journal work that helps you take everything deeper. So you have the overview journal work, and then each season has its own journal work, and then there is the monthly readings that go deeper into the issues developing, and those have their own journal work as well. So it really can be very ritualistic. You've got monthly and quarterly ritual work to do. So it's like you can really work with this thing all year and go back and watch the readings for references and stuff. But you'll have lifetime access to the playlist, and it's $12. In a world that is everything is a subscription, or everything is like an in-app purchase upgrade, or you only have like temporary access to it, this is something that it's a one-time purchase for $12. So I hope that it can be a blessing to you for the year to come. All right, that is all for tonight. I'll see y'all tomorrow for our weekly anchor message, where we get our spiritual assignments for the week ahead. Ciao.